class. We've got some exciting stuff for you today, a lot of essay correction. We'll have some speaking practice and some vocabulary as well. If this is your first time seeing me, you can find more of me over on Facebook. I post to the group IELTS for All. You can just search for that on Facebook or just click subscribe to this YouTube channel and you'll see all of my live lessons. At the moment, we're doing live lessons once a week, but I do hope to do more and more the more free time that I get. At the moment, my schedule's pretty packed, so this is all I have time for, but as time goes by, I'll be able to spend more time with you guys. If you have not checked it out already, I just opened up the entire first lesson of my writing course. So if you're at all confused about task 2 essay organization, the first lesson goes through 7 different types of essays and explains what I think is the ideal strategy and approach for each of those question types. So you get a really flexible and yet, how should I put it? It's a flexible strategy in that you can use it for any task 2 essay, but at the same time, the guidelines of the strategy are very rigid and easy to follow. Okay? So it's got a nice kind of balance between flexibility, but also it's a strategy that is firm enough that you can repeat it again and again. All right? Maybe I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Ben, and let's go ahead and get things started. We got a couple people watching live right now. If you're watching live, say hello, please. I want to check if the YouTube comment thread is working. So if you're watching in YouTube right now, just send me a little hello in the comments. Yeah, I'll be asking for your participation throughout the course, so I hope that you can be active with me here. Also, if you're watching live right now, or if you're watching the recording, please share this video with as many people as you can. So if you're a member of an IELTS study group or an IELTS Facebook group, just share the link to this video so that more people can benefit from the corrections and practice and vocabulary that we're about to get into. All right, now I'm time limited today to 1 hour and 40 minutes. So at my time, 6:40, I'm gonna have to go. So we're gonna do vocabulary first, then writing correction, and then speaking practice. We'll do as much speaking practice as possible, but we may have to shorten the normal amount of practice that we often are allowed to do. All right, let's get going here. Now in terms of vocabulary, this is the list that I have for you. Let me make sure that the let me see that we've got, aha, there we go. Cool. Well, welcome everybody. Yeah, I see a couple people watching here. Hello, Pei Fen, nice to meet you. And Marco Doctor 1973. I believe we've met before. I think you came to my last lesson, so welcome back. Now I've written down 10 words here that are related to friendship, and that's what we're going to start with. Okay, so let's start with this first expression, to enjoy each other's company. When you're talking about perhaps a best friend or even a family member, you can use an expression like this. We really enjoy each other's company. Okay, every time we meet, we have a good time together simply because we enjoy each other's company. We like each other. We like spending time together. Okay, a really common expression here. This second one I put in here because I hear a lot of mistakes with this particular expression. To get in touch with someone, to stay in touch with someone, to lose touch with someone. All of these have touch with someone, but they each mean something different. Okay, so to get in touch with someone is to make first contact with someone, or we can add the word back, and that means that we return to being in contact with someone. All right, so let me give you a couple of examples here. Make this a little bit easier to distinguish. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I studied abroad for a few years, and I guess we lost touch. Okay, so that would be the final expression, to lose touch with someone. Okay. When I came back to, I'm living in Korea, so I'm going to put Korea here. When I came back to Korea, however, we got back in touch, and we have stayed in touch ever since. Okay, so I used all three expressions here, and you can see that they each mean something different. Okay, lose touch, drop out of contact. Get back in touch, return to being in contact, and then stay in touch is more continuous. I hear a lot of mistakes confusing get in touch and stay in touch. Okay, normally people want to say stay in touch, but they say get in touch, which is the wrong meaning there. Okay. Let's see. All right. Remember, guys, anybody watching live, if you have any questions or if you want to try writing an example sentence of your own, just post it in the comments and I'll be able to check if you are using the expression correctly. All right? Number 3, a shoulder to cry on. A shoulder to cry on. So this is a nice expression when you're talking about why you value one of your friends. Okay? Friends offer us a lot of emotional support, and this is a good way to express that. A good way to express that. Here we go. He's always there for me when I'm having a tough time. I can always rely on him as a shoulder to cry on. Okay, he is a shoulder to cry on. A good shoulder to cry on. He has a good shoulder to cry on. No, that's weird. But it seems a little strange. He is a shoulder to cry on. That's correct. All right, good expression there. Why don't we move on here? Let's see. To stick with someone through thick and thin. To stick with someone through thick and thin. What does that mean? Through thick and thin would be through good times and bad times, right? And this is another way of saying he's always, or he or she is always, I can rely on this person, even when things in my life are not going well, right? A good friend is someone who sticks with you through thick and thin. Okay, and it matches really well with that verb stick. Stick with someone. It means don't leave someone. Stay with someone. All right. How about drift apart? Let's try this one next. What does it mean to drift apart? It's very similar to the expression we saw a minute ago, to lose touch. Okay? So to drift apart means to, as time goes by, slowly your lives kind of separate. We talk about this a lot with romantic relationships. So maybe I'll give you a romantic example. We dated for about 5 years, but after I got my new job, we started to drift apart. We started to kind of separate. Emotionally, usually. I don't think, physically I don't think that's right, but emotionally we would use that. I have a sad one. Ooh, we got a good practice sentence here from Marco Doctor. My friends, close. So Marco Doctor, be careful of that verb be. Stick is your verb. So you can't use are. My friends always stick with me through thick and thin. But that's good. Yeah, remove are, and that's a really nice example. Nice job. Okay, how about number 6, to fall out with someone? Okay, this kind of means to have a big fight, right? Have a big fight and sort of break up, like stop being friends. It's usually kind of temporary, but it could be permanent as well. So let's give an example here. Let's see. What would be a good example? Let's see. I fell out with my roommate after he kept leaving dirty dishes in the sink. This is my apology for my last roommate. I'm sorry. This is a bad habit for me. I love to cook. I don't like to wash dishes, especially after I eat. So here's a good example though. I fell out with my roommate. Okay. Let's move on to get on well with someone. Number 7, to get on well with someone. Also, to get along with someone is also a good expression. Let's see. Maybe I'll give you a negative expression for this one. Something the opposite, or negative example. I don't like visiting my uncle because we don't really get on well with each other. Or let's say because I don't really get on well with him. Yeah. Okay, we don't get along. We're not a good match. We don't have a good relationship. That's not my real example. I like my uncles. We get along well. We get on well together, but for example, I don't want my uncles to watch this and feel like I'm trying to criticize them or something. Let's see, to have a lot in common, you can probably imagine it. You share similar hobbies, similar interests. It means you have a lot to talk about because you just have a lot of common interests. So, my friend and I get on well with each other, even though we don't really have a lot in common. I'll give you another negative example. In this case, we don't have a lot in common, but we still get on well together. All right, next one. Let me check for any comments here. Oh, Marco's got some good ones here. My friends always stick with me through thick and thin. That's right. That's correct. And, wow, very nice example, Marco Doctor. I get along with a G with my IELTS instructor. Watch the spelling of IELTS as well, from IELTS for All. Thank you very much. I think that's very true. Yes. But yeah, watch your spelling of IELTS there. It's I-E-L-T-S. And get along with a G instead of E. Alone, that would have a different meaning, I think. All right, we got two more, so let's finish them up here. To hit it off with someone. To hit it off with somebody. What does that mean, to hit it off with someone? It means to get along with someone at the very first moment when you meet for the first time. Okay, so we use it a lot for a first date. Okay, when you go on a first date with someone, did you hit it off or not? Okay, did you get along well from the beginning or not? So let's see. We met at a conference and we really hit it off. Okay, or maybe give you one more example. No, actually, I'm going to change that a little bit. I think this is much more common than to use it with someone. So I'm going to change this a bit and say just to hit it off without with someone. This is more common. It might sound kind of negative, actually, kind of hit it off, but no, this is a positive thing. Yeah. Okay. And the last one here, to see eye to eye. And this is sort of similar to number 8, except it's not about your interests or your hobbies, it's about your opinions. So if my opinions about politics and society and whatever, if that matches yours, that means that we see eye to eye. Right? I don't like going home for Christmas because I don't really see eye to eye with a lot of my relatives. So we often argue. Really common situation. Christmas time is approaching in my own culture, and this is a common theme. I am lucky that I actually do see eye to eye with my family on most things, but yeah, it's a pretty common theme these days that, you know, how to avoid political fights at Christmas time when you don't see eye to eye with your relatives. All right, cool. So most of these are verbs, okay? Verbs that you can use in the IELTS speaking exam. Some of them could be used in the IELTS writing as well. Okay, have a lot in common, that's fine. See eye to eye is also okay. Hit it off that's more of a speaking thing, right? More like maybe describing maybe an interesting neighbor, right? And you talk, the first time I met him, he was out mowing his lawn and we struck up a conversation and we really hit it off just from the very first moment. It's more of a speaking thing. To get on well with someone is more of a speaking thing. Fall out, drift apart, those are more speaking, like relationship things. Yep, these are both kind of idiomatic, not really appropriate for writing. This one could be used in the writing, maybe like an essay about technology or communication, how it helps people keep in touch over long distances. And enjoy each other's company, also more of a speaking thing. So yeah, these are a little more related to speaking simply because friendship is not really a common task 2 writing topic. So maybe for the general exam, task 2, maybe there would be an opportunity to use one of these words. All right, let me get back to the comments here and see. There we go. Get on well. Very nice. Marco, nice work. Marco's doing a lot of good practice writing here as the lesson goes on. If anybody wants to get involved, write a couple comments and your questions as well. Any kind of IELTS question you have, put it in the comments here because I'm going to spend 10 minutes at the end of the lesson answering whatever questions were submitted to me this week. but if you have some extra questions you want to add, I'm more than happy to do that as well. Okay, we're going to take just a quick little 1-minute break. I need to set up the writing practice. We're doing writing practice next, so don't go anywhere. I'm going to be correcting a bunch of essays in today's class. So stay tuned. I'll be back in just 1 or maybe 2 minutes, so don't go anywhere, okay? All right. Cool. Let's see. Ooh, good question here. Where can I find reading passage similar to the exam? That's a pretty good question. Yeah. You want to basically search for any topic that is similar to one that you see in the practice exam. Biology topics are good. There's a website called New Scientist that is good, as well as National Geographic is another good one. I know for a fact that many of the IELTS reading passages come directly from National Geographic articles. Okay, they must have, Cambridge must have a deal with National Geographic where they are allowed to use their content. So that's a good place to look. And then besides kind of science-based ones, they really could come from anywhere. Yeah. But you want to search for articles that are similar to, similar in topic to what you find on the IELTS. Things about kind of sociology, science, nature, and some of those passage 3s are kind of all over the place. They sometimes take a kind of old text, and that can be really hard to find examples for. But if any of you guys have any ideas about websites that would be useful for Marco, post them in the comments. I'm sure everybody would benefit from that advice. Okay, cool. And let's get into our task 1 correction today. Move my computer a little bit so I can face you guys a little bit better. All right. Slide over here. Okay. So let's look at our topic. The 3 pie charts below show the changes in annual spending by local authorities in some land in 1980, 1990, and 2000. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so this is the name of the country. We have 3 years here. It's good because all of these years are in the past, so we know we should stick to the past tense here. Task 1 gets much more difficult if it's like 1990, 2010, and 2030. Like now it gets a little complicated, but this is a little more simple. Okay, and it's annual spending. Okay, so kind of the federal budget. All right, now looking through the data here, we might notice, what kind of trends do we notice? Well, I noticed that K through 12 education has steadily gone down. Let's see. What is the dark blue? Environmental services has increased gradually from 1980 to 2000. There's a few of them that saw a kind of a rise from 80 to 90, such as higher education and, let's see, health and human resources. They rose, the yellow, rose in 90 and then dropped in 2000, whereas the light blue, which was higher education, rose in 1990 and also dropped in 2000. And then there are some that had the opposite trend where like transportation dropped in 90 and then rose again in 2000. Yeah, so we've got kind of 3 trends. The easiest thing to do here is 1 paragraph about 80 to 90, 1 paragraph about 90 to 2000. If I were writing this essay, that's how I would split it. Okay, it's really 2 changes, from 80 to 90, from 90 to 2000. That makes 2 body paragraphs. If you're totally lost with task 1, I'd recommend taking my video course. I don't like to advertise it, but it guides you through everything you need to write a good task 1 essay. All right, so let's start with this first one. I'm just going to try to correct this as fast as I can, guys, because we have a lot of essays to check. Percentages of changes in annual spending by the authorities in some land in the years 1980, 1990, and 2000. overall, the maximum common expense was spent. Let's see, the maximum. The biggest part of the budget was spent in the sector of higher education, whereas the least common expenditure was in the sectors of environmental services and other. Okay. Least common, it's not really about the frequency, right? It's not about the commonality of the expenditure. Let's say the lowest expenditure. Okay. In terms of a summary, I don't know if this really tells us a kind of snapshot of what this data is all about. I mean, this is really about the change over time, and this summary doesn't tell us the change over time. So I think this summary is kind of missing the point of this data. When I think of task 1, I think, how would I summarize what this data means to somebody who can't see it, right? In 2 sentences, or 1 maybe, how do you explain the meaning of the data? Okay, so what does this data mean? I think it's all about the change over time. I think that's more important than just the highest and the lowest. Okay, in my opinion. Let's go back up here. Okay, to begin with, in the year 1980, the highest yearly expense was taken by higher education at 35%, which was also the maximum percentages, the maximum, the highest percentage in 1990 and 2000 at 45 and 40% respectively. Okay, so at the moment, the original text here did not make sense. Okay, so that's a moment of lower comprehension. The grammar that you used here and with maximum doesn't really work. In and by are not the appropriate prepositions. Oh, sorry. By is not the appropriate preposition here, and you don't have a preposition for the year. The ratio of expenditure spent on let's use used for K through 12. You don't want expenditure and spent. You don't spend expenditure. You can use expenditure, you can spend money, but you can't spend expenditure. They both have the word spend in it. Was almost a quarter each over the 2 decades at 25, 20, and 18%. Okay, not bad. Okay, so you've split this into higher education and K through 12 education in the first paragraph, and then in the second paragraph into transportation and environmental service and other sectors. Okay, does that cover all of what we had? What about health and human services? I don't really see. Yeah, so we didn't quite cover everything, and I think the reason why is that you've split this up in not maybe the best way. I think here, splitting it up by time would be better. The annual expense on transportation increased by 6% in the year 2000 as compared to the previous years, making up 22%. Not bad. I'm going to use by the year 2000, until the year 2000. The environmental service, environmental services, yeah, and other, oh, I do see environmental service, sorry. No, never mind. Yeah, we're still missing health and human resources, yeah. And other made up the minimum expense percentage over 3 years. Over the 20 years, right? Or maybe, how about throughout the 20-year period? However, environmental services increased slightly over this period, and other sectors decreased over these 2 decades. Okay. Yeah, again, the organization just makes it like kind of confusing. Even after reading this, I kind of forgot what the point was here. This should be tracking it through time. Okay, so mainly a problem of task achievement here and grammar. Okay, also vocabulary was an issue, just using words like maximum kind of incorrectly, and this kind of over 3 years got pretty confusing. So there was some confusing moments, so that's the most worrying part of that essay. But overall, not bad. Some room to improve, we'll say. Let me check the length of this one. 177, okay. It's a nice length. Boo, boo, boo. Okay, good. We got some comments coming in. If you're watching live, comment in. Tell me what you think. Give me your own task 1 outline for this essay. Presented by charts. Compare the date accounted. I'm not sure what that means. Local organizations, I don't think that's quite right. On various government sectors, and compare the ratio of expenditure in 1980, 1990, and 2000. Okay, the word compare already means between each other, so let's just keep it simple. Overall, it is quite conspicuous that primary parts of funds were directed to higher education. The highest amount of funds were directed to higher education, whereas the lowest amount of money was spent on environmental services and other purposes not mentioned in the list. Moreover, it is interesting to note that there were not considerable changes during this 20-year period. Not bad. Again, we don't really have the time thing, but I like this point is an interesting one. Looking at the details, the proportion of spending on higher education remained the largest during, we'll just say during these 20 years. Having been 30% in 1980 and 45% in 1990, the amount was 2/5. I don't like switching from percentage to fraction. I know you're trying to give a variety, but isn't it confusing? And now I'm trying to compare 30%, 45%, and now 2/5, 40%. In my head, I'm already just translating it, so we're just going to do this. 20% in 2000. The K through 12 education sector experienced stable decrease in funding over the period from 25% to 18%. I would put a comma here. Concerning transportation, the proportion of money invested was the largest in 2000, while the lowest was in 1990 with 6%. Healthcare and human resources had the same tendency in funding. The same as higher education, with a rise of proportion from 40% in 1980 to 20% in 1990, and an eventual drop to 10% in 2000. Not bad. I'm noticing one pattern that you need to be careful about, which is the word rise, the word drop, and the word, where is it? Decrease. Those are all singular. Okay? An increase, an eventual drop, and a rise. So be careful there. Those are singular and need a or sometimes the. Okay. So again, I feel like the organization of the essay does not really reflect what we are really learning here, which is how the funding evolved over this 20-year period. Right? We're still splitting it up based on the sectors rather than based on the time periods. Okay, so still I think we're not quite getting the organization right. I think this is, oh, well, we have 4 of these today. I don't know if we're going to have time for speaking or not. Let's see. Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, I am time limited today. In about 1 hour I have to go, so we'll see how it goes. But let's see, we got a few people watching now. If you guys have questions at any point, let me know. I'll take a little pause and answer some questions too. Okay, so same thing. The 3 pie charts illustrate the differences of government's yearly expenditure in some land in years 1980, 1990. Oh. I'm going to change my mind here. I'm going to put this yearly at the beginning. So yearly government expenditure without S. In the years 1980, 1990, and 2000. Overall, it is clear that local authorities allocate, you said authorities, right? Allocate their funds on different sectors, allocate to different sectors each year. In the year 1980, the highest budget, maybe that's okay, was given to K through 12 education and other sectors. Is that right? Other is green. Other only had 6%. I'm not sure you read that correctly. Well, in 1990, it give. What is it in this case? Let's change that to passive. More emphasis was given to higher education and health and human resources, transportation and environmental services. You've got 2 verbs here, right? So you've got, well, in 1990, more emphasis was given. There's our first verb. To this, and then you have another verb, was. So the sentence structure here is faulty. I'm just going to add the word and. I'm not sure what meaning you're trying to express here. I'm getting kind of lost as to what the idea is. Yeah, I think you're just missing and. So you're saying 1980, here was the biggest. 1990, here was the biggest. 2000, here was the biggest. I kind of like that, actually. It's not a bad way to summarize, but if this is your overall, that's quite a big summary. And you can see that we have a pretty small detailed paragraphs. So among the sectors, education was valued the most. In the year 1980, higher education got 35%, an increase of 10% in 1990, and a 5% drop in 2000. It's not, you just got, let's say received. And let's use this, followed by an increase of 10% in 1990 and a 5% drop in 2000. K through 12 education, on the other hand, again, we're going to use received, and gradually decreased for the succeeding 10 years. I'm just going to use following. I'm more comfortable with that. So check your subject and verb here. K through education received 25%, and K through education decreased. The education didn't decrease, right? Spending in this area gradually decreased. So always check your subjects and verbs. That's one of the more common mistakes, is just the subject and verb doesn't quite match. Meanwhile, transportation, there's a comma here, had its share of 16%. Transportation, I know you want to get some variety. You probably don't want to say received again, but let's say 16% of the budget was allocated to transportation in 1980. Again, followed by a 10% deficit in 1990, and an additional let's say a rise of 16% in 2000. Summerland's administration designated 14% to Health and Human Resources in 1980, augmented to 2000. So I see what the problem is for this writer. They're trying to use a different expression every time. It's really not necessary to do that, and you can see that almost all of the expressions you're using are used incorrectly, right? This in additional, had its share, deficit, next succeeding, got, had, yeah. So the effort to bring variety to your writing is actually hurting you a lot, because it's making your ideas not very easy to understand, and you've got like 2 or 3 grammar mistakes every sentence, right? So don't focus your energy on finding new expressions. Focus your energy on making sure the expressions that you're using correctly. Okay, accuracy is just as important, if not more important, than variety. Okay, I think it's more fun, more interesting to learn new expressions, and it's something that you can do from a book. It's hard to check your own mistakes, and I get that, but you need to find a way to do that. Whether it's through an instructor or just somebody who you know that has a higher level of English than you, or just being very diligent in checking yourself. Okay, confine yourself to 20 expressions and only use those for task 1. Okay, once you know those are perfect, you can add one more and then add one more. But I feel like you're spending all your energy trying to build up your vocabulary, and it's not working. And again, scale down is just not right. Although environmental services seem to receive the least amount of funding among the sectors, its percentage rises as the years pass by. Okay. All right, so mainly this was a problem of just incorrect expression use. All right, so keep it more simple. Don't write so complicated. Variety is only one part of that grammar score and that vocabulary score. Accuracy, in my opinion, is much more important, and it's overlooked by most students, I think. You know, examiner is not going to be impressed by your ability to use a different expression in every sentence, especially if most of those expressions are used incorrectly. Okay, so be careful. Pei Fen, I think I understand your question. You say, do we actually explain the pie chart based on the comparison of the years, but not the sectors involved? Yeah, I think comparing sector to sector doesn't really give us all that much. It's not that interesting to me. I think it's more interesting to compare 1980 to 1990. And of course, you're going to mention all the sectors. You're going to say, you know, from 1890 to 1990, these two sectors increased by this much. These sectors decreased by this much, and these sectors stayed relatively the same. From 1990 to 2000, we saw a reversal of this trend in these sectors as this one dropped and this one rose. On the other hand, we saw a continuation of the trend in these two sectors as this one continued to fall and this one continued to rise. So to me, the kind of, okay, here's health, right? Health in 1980, 1990, 2000. That's interesting to me. That's what I would highlight. I like when task one is like telling a story. Whenever I see time there, I like to tell a story. What happened? How did the world change in these 20 years? How did this country of some land change in these 20 years? To me, that's a more interesting analysis. Yes, yep, separate the paragraph using years and explain the sectors involved. That's how I would approach this. Yeah, and keep in mind, there shouldn't be 3 paragraphs, 1980, 1990, 2000. No, it should be from 1980 to 1990 and from 1990 to 2000. 2 body paragraphs. And then, of course, a summary and an introduction. Okay, thank you, Marco. I will. Patience, patience. Okay, well, maybe this one's Marcos. I'm not sure, but we'll see. Oh, it's not actually Somalia. Yeah, gotta read that prompt carefully. The name of this country is Someland. Let's check our word count. 193. It's a bit high, but if you have the time, it's fine. Spent no the here. Most of its resources. Let's check your spelling there. On higher education over the period given. By contrast, the least expenditure was on other. Yeah, see, to me, this sentence is totally uninteresting, right? I don't even know what other really is. I mean, does that really tell us an important piece of data? Remember, the summary is supposed to be the most essential story of this data, right? So this sentence definitely does not belong there. So I would say contrasting the biggest to the smallest maybe is not interesting here. Good. And I would say these years. You almost never use those. This, these, not them and those. Or that and those. In 1980, higher education contributed to about is a bit casual. I like to use approximately or around is okay. And a third, let's say 1/3. 1/3 of the total spent by the some land authorities which is a little strange here. Let's just make a new sentence. This sector experienced an increase of, we could add then, just to connect it a little, then experienced an increase of 10% in 1990 before falling slightly to 40% in 2000. Good. Health and Human Resources had the same trend, accounting for 14% in 1980. The which is the problem here. Then rising to a fifth and falling to 10% in 1990 and 2000 respectively. Same feedback I had for a previous author. I would say don't mix 14%, a fifth, 10%. 20% is better. Transportation contribute to almost, yeah, so maybe it's okay if you start with it, right? But it's switching from percent to fraction is strange. Then maybe the which is okay in this case. Let me see. I'll change this to followed. Yeah, I think the reason why this... No, I wouldn't use which here either. Transportation contributed almost a fifth of the expenditure of the country in 1980. And let's just separate it just for some variety. It then decreased significantly by 10% in 1990 and soared 22% in 2000. Okay, it's better now. Environment services, not sure why we have a comma here, but increased by 1% in 1990 and doubled. The services didn't really increase, but money spent on environmental services. I don't think we know where environmental services began. Do we? Do you say it back here? No, I don't think so. What was environmental services? Environmental services increased by 1% from 4% in 1980 to 5% in 1990 and doubled almost doubled and nearly doubled in 2000. On the contrary, K through 12 education as well as others experienced a downtrend, falling from a quarter and 6%. Does that mean 31? Oh, okay. I think I'm with you here. Again, I don't like mixing these so much. 25% and 6% in 1980 to 18% and 1% in 2000 respectively. Okay, and I think you already told us a little about K through 12. Yeah, this paragraph is kind of confusing me because here you took us all the way from 1980 to 1990, and here you're just taking us from from 1990 to 2000, and here from 1980 straight to 2000. I think I see why you did that, because these go down the whole time. Maybe you just meant 1990 here, maybe? Increased by 1% in 1990. No, nearly doubled in 2000. Okay, yeah. So this is just the issue, but I see why you did this though. This makes sense. If it just continued the trend, 25 to 18, 6 to 1, 25, 20, 18, right, and 6, 4, 1. Yeah, good. So that's a good way to kind of remove a couple of extra words in there. Okay, good. When we write 1/3, 2/3, do we need to put blank in between? That's a good question. I do. I think so. I better check. I don't want to give you the wrong. It's a hyphen. I'm not sure if it should be hyphenated always, or maybe it's a little more complicated than that. Yeah, according to the Chicago Manual of Style, it should be hyphenated in the noun and adjective forms. So, yeah, I think it's more of a style thing, but I would suggest using the hyphen. Yeah. Yeah, uptrend and downtrend. That makes sense, Marco. Yeah, I think I got your idea there. Overall, it's a fairly clean essay. I do think that the summary didn't quite capture the story of the data the way that I would want it to. Perhaps it would be better in the summary to say that where was it? Sorry. In the summary, it might be better to give this kind of information, right? Where a couple of factors rose consistently, a couple of them fell consistently, and a couple of them fluctuated. Maybe that would be like what I want in a summary, to give me just a snapshot of the story. But in any case. All right, guys, I need to take another 1-minute break, and then we will continue on with some task 2 correction. I can see clearly I'm not going to have enough time for speaking practice today. I'm really sorry if you guys are looking forward to that, but yeah, I might have to just make a separate speaking practice lesson maybe early next week. I don't like to cancel any part of the lesson, but I am under deadline, and it takes some time to check these essays. We got a lot of submissions this week, so let's take a 2-minute break, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, well, we have some Task 2 essays to check, and let's read the topic first. Some people think that women should be allowed to join the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force just like men. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So maybe some controversial opinions here. Let's see. We've got 4 essays to check. I'm going to start by looking at the task achievement and the coherence and cohesion. If I have time, I'll try to point out some major grammar issues, but I think it's more important for me to look at structure first. Okay? So let's start here. Now, what I like to think about when it comes to an essay is to look at the last sentence of the introduction, the first sentence of each body paragraph, and the first sentence of the conclusion. And we should have a bit of a sandwich here. Okay, we should have the main idea of the essay here. These sentences should all fit together well to support that idea. And then this sentence should summarize it at the end. Okay, it should be restating the same idea here. All right, so let's see, especially when it comes to an opinion essay. From my point of view, despite all common stereotypes toward women, they should not be prohibited to join the Army as long as they meet all requirements. Okay, so in other words, they should be allowed to join, right? Here we've got the first topic sentence is, I think, the weakness here. Thesis called Gender Equality is All Around Us. It's all around us. I don't know. The fact that it is all around us, does that support this idea? I'm not sure. It seems a little abstract. It seems like an introduction. And your body paragraph, there's no time for an introduction. You need to say what the paragraph is about, right? So let's see. Thesis called Gender Equality is All Around Us. Conversely, the requirements for applicants willing to enter forces must be as high for women as for man. Conversely. See, you see what I mean here? So this sentence, conversely, this sentence they don't go together. So in terms of cohesion, you're going to drop there. Okay, your score is going to drop unless these two sentences actually fit together well. However, I believe that the primary role of humanity is not to involve in any kind of wars. Bing, bing, bing. There's really no room for that opinion in here. It doesn't support your idea really at all, I don't think. I'll read more closely, but this seems like an extra opinion that you're adding. In conclusion, I would like to highlight the idea of gender equality, which is not quite what you said here, right? So I'm going to read it a little more closely here, but at the outset, it looks a bit of a mess. Okay, the ideas don't quite fit together. I think a lot of people have trouble with Task 2 trying to be too clever. You know what I mean? Trying to sound smart. The examiner is not judging you on how smart you are or how clever your ideas are. They should have some amount of complexity, but not because we want to see complex ideas, just because we need complex language to express them. So we want to see complex language and a variety of vocabulary, but we don't need to see a brilliant concept or thesis. It's not necessary. And in fact, it's only 250 words, or maybe 300. There's not enough time to be brilliant in that period of time. Okay, so don't try to be clever. Just pick a solid idea and support it in a really clear, understandable way. Okay? A lot of this reads like a, I don't know, like a blog or an opinion piece that somebody's writing into like a newspaper or something. This is not what this is. This is a basic academic essay, and it should be written as such. And I think that's the problem here. So let me read it a bit more carefully. the introduction is well put together, okay? But let's get to the second sentence, or second paragraph, because I can see even just based on the length of this paragraph, the idea is it's hard to keep that length cohesive, right? That males and females have equal rights. Wrong stereotypes that women tend to be ineffective in forces are unreasonable. Well, there are plenty of positions that Dr. Cook where females can be extremely useful. For instance, the majority of war were females who played a crucial role in transmission of confident data. Okay, good. To be honest, if you just started here, it would be better, right? If you just said, just remove this thing. You don't have time for an introduction. This belongs in the introduction paragraph, if anything, right? So you want to get straight into it and say, actually, maybe even start here, right? The idea that women are not capable of serving in the military is unreasonable. That should be your first sentence. And then use all these great details to support that. But right now, these details do not match this concept. See what I mean? You got to be more direct, more clear. Conversely, I don't think conversely works. Also, well, okay, maybe it can fit with the to what extent, maybe. So in this case, this is not bad. I don't think I would use conversely. I would use maybe however. Conversely is different than however. Conversely is more like on the other hand, or no, not even on the other hand. It's contrasting to, maybe if you're contrasting two countries, okay, I could say that America is a very individualist country. Conversely, Korea is a very socially oriented country or community oriented country. We're comparing two different things, but if an idea, yeah, I think we need however here. Or maybe, even better, that being said, okay? While that is true, there's another idea that adds some complexity to it, okay? Oof. Yikes. I mean, you did this whole thing about gender equality and how it should be spread in all parts of life, and then talking about the role of women being essentially cooks and mothers, which of course is important, but if they could be in the military, why couldn't they be in the workforce as well? Or, yeah, the first problem is this paragraph does not support your thesis at all and should just be removed completely. But also, your kind of notion here goes against what you were saying before. And I'm not criticizing your opinion. All I'm saying is it doesn't match with your idea here about gender equality. In conclusion, I would like to highlight the idea of gender equality. Yeah, in conclusion, women should not be barred from entering military service. Why? Because it's important that women have the same opportunities. So again, don't introduce your conclusion. Tell us what the thesis is. Okay, so overall, actually, I really like your the idea of those two body paragraphs. The idea that women should have equal opportunity as men, and therefore that should apply to the Army as well. And then, however, we have to make sure that the requirements are the same, right? We shouldn't have two sets of requirements. In conclusion, women should be allowed to join, but you have to make sure that they meet the qualifications. It can be as simple as that, but this paragraph and this idea, this kind of introduction idea, kind of ruined the essay a little bit from a cohesion standpoint and even from a task achievement standpoint. You definitely did not keep the same main idea throughout the essay. All right? Okay, let's move on here to the next one. Oh, I'm out of water. Oh, we've only got 20 minutes left, you guys, so I'm going to have to hurry. Armed forces play a pivotal role. That being said, a few people set forth the idea that women should be given permission to enroll in the army, the Marine Force, and I agree with it to a great extent. Okay. I don't know if that being said makes sense here. That being said has got that kind of contrasting meaning. Yeah, I don't particularly like such a broad context sentence. So when I teach writing strategy, which you can go check out at my writing course, I teach a different way to set this up. This is such a broad sentence. I think for such a short essay and such a focused essay, this kind of really broad introduction sentence, it's hard to go from this all the way to this in just 2 or 3 sentences, I think. Yeah, I would say this is maybe more suitable at the beginning of your essay. First of all, women play an essential part in building up a strong nation in many ways, and joining force is one of it. Interesting, yeah. So you're, in the body of this paragraph, you're talking about the advantages that women have, maybe based on their psychology, or there are maybe some differences between men and women, and those differences can be a benefit to women in combat, right? I think that idea needs to be more clearly expressed in the topic sentence. You say in many ways, but I think what you mean is that women have advantages over men, and those advantages can be used by the military to strengthen it. I want to see that idea of women and men, advantages, benefits that apply just to women based on their different, whatever I say here, I feel like I'm going to get into trouble, but if these are your ideas, these ideas can be more clearly stated here. Another variable is females showing more patience in taking decisions than men, which can benefit in making strategic plans for the safety of the country. Without the element of impatience, that can be a troublesome matter. Much too long on your topic sentence. The first sentence of this paragraph should be direct and straight to the point. You can explain more through the rest of the paragraph, okay, if you have some complex ideas, but if you have such a long topic sentence, by the time I'm done reading it, there's too much going on. I need a firm, solid, straight sentence here. Yeah, just cut it off right here. So this is fine. Another variable is females show more patience in taking decisions than males. Done. Okay? Then continue with another sentence, explaining that more, telling us what that means. Good. I think your ideas here are interesting. I'm not sure that the examples you chose are the best. You talked about male-dominated generals who are military officials, but then you said the women general of Germany. I guess you could say the president is the top of the army, which is true, but I think here you're talking about female fighters. Maybe you could make that more clear in the topic sentence and it would work. You could say, furthermore, having more women in the upper ranks of the military would be beneficial to a country's security. And then explain this idea of kind of patience and just different way of relating to people, and that might work a little bit better. I feel like the examples you gave don't quite work for the idea that you presented, but if you say it more clearly at the beginning, then maybe these examples would fit a bit better. In conclusion, I strongly agree with the statement that female gender ought to be allowed to join the forces in order to prevail peace and improve future decisions. Good summary. I always recommend adding one sentence at the end, almost the same reason as we add one sentence at the beginning, just to make it feel like the end of an essay. Okay? I go into this in great detail in my course, but I will say very quickly that you can just add a sentence that mentions the future, either some advice for the future, which in this case I think would be repetitive, or a prediction for the future, a hope. I think a hope would work well here. Yeah. So by following these, or by allowing women in the military, I hope that our world can move in a more peaceful direction in the future. It doesn't have any content, right? It's an empty sentence. But the fact that it uses will, that makes it feel like the end of an essay. Okay? And that can be something impressive to an examiner, that you understand how to kind of close an essay with style, right? Just like we do in the introduction. We kind of ease into the topic. We need to kind of ease out of the topic at the end of the conclusion. So I would add a sentence there about your hope or your wish or your fear would work. Something about the future. Okay? Ooh, into the next one. Let's see if there's any comments here. Okay, good. We got 5 people watching. Welcome, you guys. Say hello in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And I'm going to be getting to questions soon, so if you have any IELTS related questions you would like to ask, let me know in the questions, or in the comments. In today's world, the role of women has changed dramatically. Okay, not bad here. Good setup, and yeah, not a bad thesis. The word consider makes it a little, it sounds a little weak. It's like, think, well, they should think about it. I think accept would be better. Yeah. To begin with, mini column. Oh, yeah. Women seem, So women are at least as strong, if not stronger than men. Okay. On the other hand, doesn't work here. You want furthermore or in addition. I'm not sure that this really strengthens your claim that they would be better in the army. Yeah, but by the time heart disease and cancer set in, not a whole lot of 50-plus-year-old soldiers, maybe officers, but to me this is not a great support for your idea. Yeah, overall this is not a bad paragraph, but I feel like it's lacking just a little bit of content, right? You have one sentence that explains what you mean, and then an example and a study. I think we need a little more explanation, or the idea needs to be a bit more complex. Yeah. Moreover, nowadays the CEOs of the top-tiered companies, most are females. Yeah, this is actually your main idea here. This is support for it. So switch those sentences around. Women are capable of managing high-pressure situations perfectly well. This is proof of that idea. But don't start with the proof. Start with what your idea is. Okay? Elizabeth II. Okay. Yeah, not bad. Again, I have to feel like the ideas are just a little bit simple, and that's leading you to well-constructed paragraphs for the most part, except for these 2 sentences being switched, but overall a little bit of a lack of complexity. Women should be allowed to be part of the military forces. They are no longer the weaker sex because of their strengths previously mentioned. With these skills, women will be able to carry out any job in a company, armed forces, Army, or the Air Force. Yeah, good. And notice the use of will, which makes this sentence sound final, which is really great. Okay? So overall, not bad, but the main thing to focus on is just make sure the topic sentence really clearly hits what your idea is. Okay? It's harder than it seems. You have to be really clear in your head what you're trying to say. But after you write the essay, what I suggest is consider these 4 sentences. Oh, hold on. Consider this sentence, this sentence, this sentence, and this sentence, and make sure all 4 of those go together and also hit your main point. Okay, so you said these sorts of organizations should consider females as their members. They have proved the idea of weaker sex wrong, so that's good. Nowadays, CEOs of top-tiered companies, global social leaders, and ministers are females. Okay, but does that mean the army should accept them as well? No, I think your actual idea is here, right? So make sure that idea goes first. Otherwise, it doesn't really flow the way you want it to. All right. The last one, okay. We got 10 minutes. I think we're going to make it. It is believed by some that females ought to be permitted equally to join the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force as men. In my opinion, women are an important part of society, and they can enhance the job that military forces do. Okay. Firstly, women are an essential part of society, and therefore their contributions to communities have been valued since the early 1800s. Okay, so they've been valued not just to communities. Communities may be missing the point. To the military, right? All of your examples here are about the military. So make sure that your topic sentence also is about something like women have been a valuable part of militaries all over the world for over 200 years, right? And then all of these examples support that idea. But this broad idea of communities doesn't quite fit. Okay. The one kind of issue that I might take with this is, here you've got an explanation of your idea and then a fact. Here you have an example. Right? So the balance is not quite right there. It seems like this idea you've explained the idea and supported it properly. This is an example of, I guess, the main point that women have been around for a long time. Yeah. It's a bit tricky. Something doesn't quite fit there. But again, the main thing is just changing this topic sentence to match the military examples that you give. Secondly, it is equally important for families that not only men join the armed forces. Nice topic sentence, good. It's important for families. Why? Good. Yes. Very nice, yeah. Nice. I think families and the society as a whole as well, right? Not only individual families, but the whole culture can be affected. Very nice idea. I like this a lot. Very cool. And I like the way you set it up as well. Topic sentence, explanation, example, and then bringing it back to the beginning. This is a perfect example of the kind of paragraph style in the course, in my writing course, that's called the one idea paragraph, right? This would be more like a 2-idea paragraph that doesn't quite work. You have this in addition to say your next thing. Yeah, this doesn't quite work as a 2-idea paragraph. This is a really good example of a 1-idea paragraph. Okay, so if you're struggling to put together body paragraphs, contact me and find out about the writing video course, because I have a whole 1-hour detailed lesson on how body paragraphs should be set up and organized. In conclusion, although some people believe that women should be at home, I believe that the contribution that women can bring to the armed forces is more significant in all aspects. Good. A nice summary. I would like to see one sentence added that's more of a final sentence using the future tense. Yeah, something like this person did with the will, which makes it sound a bit more final. There's just something incomplete about just a summary. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's sort of like if all of your, if this was your introduction paragraph, just this, it wouldn't quite sound right. That's not the way an introduction should be. That's how I feel about conclusions that are just summaries. It's not bad, just something's missing. The style is not quite right. All right, so I have a number of questions. Hey, Marco, very good news. I think you're really gonna like it. Did you watch the first lesson? I put the whole first lesson up for free now, so you won't get the body paragraph lesson in there, but you will understand the different essay types and how to organize them. Plus just tons of examples, really simple, clear examples of kind of Band 9 organization. That's the idea. But we've got 5 minutes and 5 questions. Perfect. So let's do it. Sir, kindly add grammar improving course, please. That's a good advice, and I know that that's something that a lot of people need. I do plan to add some more grammar lessons. Perhaps I'll make it into a full course. The problem with a grammar improvement course is everybody's at a different level, so it's hard to create a course that is useful for a large number of people. Honestly, there's so many grammar books out there, and grammar is something you really need to see text. I gotta think that a grammar book might actually do you more good than a video course. That being said, I am going to try to create that because I know that, you know, accessing material on your phone or there's something more engaging about video content. So I am working on it. It's not my top priority right now. My reading strategy course will be up maybe this weekend or early next weekend. So watch out for that. The website is IELTSlessons4u.com. It's the number 4 and the letter U. So IELTSlessons4u.com. Okay, so go check that out because the full first lesson of the reading course will also be available for free. Okay, so you get a really nice basic writing lesson and a really nice basic reading lesson. It's a great place to start if you're just getting going with your IELTS. And if you like it and you want to see more, you can always get the course, and it's not very expensive. Okay, it basically covers the cost of the time and energy that I spend making it, plus all the training and all that stuff. So, all right, next, kindly explain what is vocabulary structure and how to improve it. Not sure about vocabulary structure. Maybe the different parts of speech is what you're talking about. It's more of a grammar issue. One way that I like to suggest is using, what's it called? Hold on. There's a dictionary that I like to use that's very simple. Here it is. Let me give you the website here. yourdictionary.com. Very simple definitions. And the other website would be relatedwords.org. So what I like is to find a word that, a word that I don't know, right, that I'm learning, And then I check it out on yourdictionary.com, find the definition, see some example sentences. But then I take it over to relatedwords.org. You put that in, and a variety of words that are similar or used in a similar context pop up as well. So that's a really organic, natural way to kind of grow your vocabulary, learn in kind of clouds of word instead of just one word. Okay? So when I was learning, let me find a notebook here. When I was learning Korean, do I have one in here? I don't, but I have a sticky pad. So what I would do is take a notebook page, not a sticky pad, but a notebook page, and put one word in the middle and find 4 related words and branch those out on the sides, and then find 4 related words for each of those, and just grow this kind of tree of words. Okay? For reading and listening vocabulary, that is a really great way to do it. For writing, you need to write the words in sentence form a lot. But a lot of things you can do for vocabulary, so much you can do. But a good vocabulary notebook with some interesting note-taking technique, that's a good place to start. Oh, sorry, Stevie G, I outed you there. So many approaches how to properly write an essay. I guess my best enemy is timing, as I go too deep with the topic and try very hard to be smarter in my ideas, but I can never finish the tasks within the required time. What can you suggest? I have a feeling you maybe were our first task 2 today. And my advice for that writer was the same as I'll offer for you. Don't try to write a clever essay. Try to write a clear essay. Okay? You've only got 300 words, right? 250, maybe to 300. You don't have time to be a genius. Okay? Maybe if you write the essay beforehand, you could, over the course of a couple of hours, come up with a really nice, concise way to explain a really clever and complex idea. But that's not the purpose of the IELTS. The purpose of the IELTS is to check your language use, not your ideas. Okay? So your ideas should be complex enough that they require complex language to explain. See what I mean? That's the only purpose of complexity for the IELTS, is just to make sure that you are forced into using a variety and a certain level of complexity when it comes to grammar and vocabulary. So don't try to be a genius. A smart essay is not a good essay for the IELTS. Okay? It can be both, but focus on good, not smart. And last, how to make a practical outline for writing task 2. Well, I mean, it really just comes with practice, but you've got thesis, body A, body B, and you don't even really need to write a conclusion, but maybe restated thesis. Okay? If you want to go into more detail than that, you can say, if it's a 1 idea paragraph, you might say, here's 1 and A, B, C. Okay, probably some explanation, an example, maybe some citation of data from somewhere. You've got kind of your thesis statement, explain the idea, and then offer 3 supporting details for that. Okay? If you want more of a kind of 2 paragraph or 2 idea paragraph, you'd go something like this. Something a little more like that, where this second support, the second support is kind of optional. Depends on how many ideas you have or whether the ideas are combined into one sentence. So yeah, that's a very simple version of what I explained in the course. So yeah, if you're concerned about outlining, go to that free class, because I give a standard outline for every essay type. And I define 7 different types of essays. This one is, where's our thing? This is just a straight up opinion essay. Okay, but there are 6 other types. Okay, advantages, disadvantages, 2-question essays. I can't even remember what they are, but 6 different types, or 7 different types. And if you struggle with outlining, you should go check out that lesson, and I encourage you to check out the rest of the course as well. The full outline is up on IELTSlessons4u.com. All right, you guys, I'm going to say goodbye because I'm already 3 minutes late. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you very shortly for another live lesson. Make sure you submit your writing to me after I post it in our Facebook group, IELTS for All. All right, cheers, you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.